Welcome to Runegistics. I make fast guides here designed to help you accomplish an old school RuneScape goal or task as quickly and efficiently as possible. Today's walkthrough is for the Tempoross minigame, and we'll cover requirements, getting there, objectives, suggested inventory, mechanics, and rewards. I'll be weaving through playing in a group setting and playing solo, since this minigame is a good option for both setups. There's also a first time solo walkthrough where I'll detail exactly what to do to easily solo this minigame. As a quick note, I would absolutely recommend to anyone to do this on mobile, especially if you've gotten the mechanics and feel for the phases down, which you should realistically get after completing Tempoross 2 or 3 times. Feel free to utilize the chapters in the video timeline to navigate to whichever section of information you are interested in. Before attempting the Tempoross minigame, you'll need to have 35 fishing. There's no other hard requirement here. There's multiple ways of getting to the ruins of Unka in the Caridian Desert where the minigame is located. Personally, I'd take the ferry offered by Ferryman Southwood in Al Kharid, just south of the bank. You can also utilize an Amulet of Glory, Pharaoh Scepter, Camulet, or Magic Carpet to travel relatively close to this location as well. The objective of the minigame is relatively simple. Reduce Tempoross's essence to 0 before the storm intensity reaches 100. To do this, you'll have to weave through 2 unique phases. The first phase involves making Tempoross vulnerable by reducing his energy to 0, then catching energized fish in the large whirlpool to reduce the essence to 0. Along the way, you'll get points that determine the amount of reward permits you receive if you defeat Tempoross, which is just a fancy way of saying how many times you'll be able to fish from the reward pool in the ruins of Unka. The list of tasks and corresponding points is right here. So let's talk about what you need to do for these 2 phases. As a prereq note, all items needed for Tempoross are available throughout the encounter, in the bins located on the ship or on the docks. There's also multiple water sources for refilling buckets. Trust me when I say you will use these. The first phase involves reducing Tempoross's energy to 0 by shooting cooked or uncooked harpoonfish using the cannons on the ship. To catch the fish, you'll need a harpoon. Throughout this phase, Tempoross has 3 unique mechanics: a wave attack, lightning attack, and a torrent attack. We'll cover these more in depth in the mechanics section. The wave attack requires you to have 1 rope and 1 hammer available at all times, and the lightning attack requires a bucket of water. Personally, just based on experience, I would recommend having multiple buckets of water in your inventory, which we'll discuss here shortly. Also, as an optional item, you can have your small fishing net in your inventory too, which is necessary to fish up the reward pool once the minigame ends. It's not required and you won't use it during the minigame, but if you're not stacking the reward permits and just collecting after each win, it saves having to constantly grab a new one each time. Helpful items to take advantage of, if you have them, include any of the angler or spirit angler's gear for the increased fishing. As a note, once you do get the spirit angler set, it will also serve as a rope, meaning you don't need one in your inventory. The barbed tail harpoon, which can be held in your main hand, freeing up some inventory space. The dragon harpoon for its increased fishing level special attack. Infernal harpoon, which cooks 1/3 of the harpoon fish caught. And a crystal harpoon, which gives 20% more fishing experience, though shooting crystallized harpoon fish is equivalent to shooting raw ones. Also, having an Imkando hammer is also helpful as it can't be destroyed if hit by one of Tempoross's mechanics like a normal hammer. Finally, any consumables that boost fishing experience will be helpful. So if you have any admiral pies, fish pies, or fishing potions, they'll help you out here. So let's talk about phases and mechanics. Phase 1 involves reducing Tempoross's energy to 0 by shooting harpoonfish at it with the cannons on the ship. You can catch harpoonfish using the multiple fishing spots located along the islands. At random points during the encounter, you'll see fishing spots where you have a chance to catch 2 harpoonfish at once. This is a huge time saver and should always be prioritized at any point during the encounter. You can cook the harpoonfish using the shrines located throughout the island. In a solo setting, shooting uncooked harpoonfish drains 10 energy from Tempoross, while cooked drains 15. Tempoross has 266 energy when at 100%, so you would need 18 cooked harpoonfish or 27 uncooked to drain its energy all the way down to 0 to begin phase 2. These values all scale if you're in a group setting. You could also mix and match cooked and uncooked however you would like. Just note that if you have both in your inventory, the cooked ones will always shoot first automatically. There are 3 separate mechanics Tempoross uses to slow you down in phase 1: a wave attack, lightning attack, and a torrent attack. The wave attack involves your screen slowly turning blue, indicating a large wave coming to you. If you are hit by this wave without protection, you'll be knocked a few tiles away and, more importantly, lose fish and or tools in your inventory. To protect yourself from this mechanic, you'll need to tether yourself up to one of the cross-shaped totem poles or the mast on the ship using the rope in your inventory. From the moment your screen starts turning blue, you have about 7-ish seconds to tether yourself before the wave crashes. If you have your chat box open, you'll also see a message indicating that the wave is coming. You should never get hit by the wave unprotected, as the time lost having to regather the fish and, more importantly, the tools can be very substantial. Additionally, the wave attack can damage one or multiple of the totem poles or masts, and will need to be repaired using your hammer before you can tether to it again. Having the pole you are working near and the mast repaired prior to the wave attack is a priority at all times to prevent the wave attack from hitting you. The other poles don't matter if you aren't planning on being near them. The minigame tooltip icon on screen proves pretty helpful here, as you can see what needs repairing. The lightning attack involves the floating storm clouds, which are present throughout the encounter. During the lightning attack, these clouds will float over the islands and shoot lightning down on the ground, causing fires to pop up directly underneath them. You'll easily know where this is going to happen by watching for the dark circles that appear on the land. After the circles appear, you have about 7-ish seconds to move away from them before the lightning strikes and the fire appears. Afterwards, any flames not put out will slowly spread to an adjacent tile, which can become very difficult to maneuver around if left unattended. If you are hit by lightning or walk through the fire after the attack, you will lose fish and/or tools from your inventory. Once the fire appears, there are two ways you can put it out: using one of your buckets of water to douse the flame, or wait until Tempoross does the wave attack again, which removes all existing flames in the minigame area. Personally, my recommendation here is always put out the flames in the area you are working in. Typically, there are 3 flames that get ignited in your area, as well as 1 or 2 on the ship, which is why I'd recommend having multiple buckets of water available. Putting them out within 20 to 30 seconds after they appear prevents having to worry about them spreading, and just makes the encounter less hectic to deal with. You could also only put out the flames that are blocking your path to and from the ship, cooking shrine, fishing spots, etc., and wait for Tempoross to put out the rest using the wave attack. But I personally wouldn't recommend this unless you're trying to maximize points in a solo run, which we'll get more into later. There are times where Tempoross doesn't use the wave attack for an extended amount of time after the lightning attack due to a phase change, different mechanic being used, whatever the circumstances. In that time, flames can almost completely engulf the land and make it nearly impossible to move around. At which point you'll find yourself frantically trying to put out flames and refilling your water buckets to try to get to a fishing spot, cooking shrine, or pole to tether to before the next wave attack. By putting out the initial flames that appear, you avoid this completely. The final mechanic is the Torrent attack, which involves a whirlpool looking thing temporarily disabling or stunning one of the cannons on the ship. This is probably the easiest mechanic to avoid, as you just need to watch for the whirlpool and avoid using the cannon it's targeting. If you are using the cannon when it gets hit, you won't lose any fish or items from your inventory. This is more meant to be a minor inconvenience and make it so that you can't use one of the cannons for a small amount of time. Keep in mind, Tempoross only uses these mechanics in phase 1 and does not use any of these mechanics once its energy goes below 10%. Reacting to these mechanics properly and moving Tempoross's energy to 0 will trigger phase 2 of the encounter, which is extremely straightforward. Just move to the dock and harpoon at the pool of fish, which will slowly drain Tempoross's essence. As you fish, Tempoross will continuously gain energy until it's back to 100%, which will trigger for phase 1 to begin again. In a solo setting, if you time shooting the last Harpoonfish with running to the docks properly, you should be able to get Tempoross's essence under 50% in one go. In a group setting, just start harpooning the whirlpool ASAP, since it rewards you with the most points. From there, all you need to do is repeat phases 1 and 2 until Tempoross's essence hits 0. If you don't achieve this after 3 cycles of phase 1 and 2, you will fail the encounter. If you are successful, Tempoross will despawn and you can either talk to one of the NPCs to leave or wait until you are removed from the game area. I personally utilize this time to make sure all of my buckets are filled with water and I have all of my tools in case I lost any. Once you're out of the area, you can board the ship again or collect your rewards from the reward pool near the dock by fishing at it with a small or large fishing net. Throughout the encounter, you gain points based on the activities that you do that determine the amount of times you can fish from the reward pool, which are called reward permits. Here's a list of points needed for each amount of reward permits. At a minimum, you should always aim to at least hit the 2,000 point threshold. There are a vast amount of rewards you can get from the reward pool. All rewards are calculated based on your fishing level at the time you complete the minigame, and it is possible to stack your rewards in between games, meaning you don't fish in the reward pool between games. Every time you fish in the reward pool, you roll for your loot, which can include noted raw fish based on your fishing level, as well as planks, seaweed, nails, feathers, fishing bait, or you can get lucky and roll on the unique table, which can give you a chance at any of the items here. So let's walk through a safe and effective method to complete this minigame solo. Keep in mind, this is meant for somebody who's doing it for the first time and just wants to understand how the minigame works and see it from beginning to end. As stated in the inventory section, I recommend having 1 harpoon, 1 rope, 1 hammer, the small fishing net, and multiple buckets of water. Here, I would use 6 specifically, because this leaves you with 18 inventory spaces, exactly the amount of cooked harpoonfish you'd need to reduce Tempoross's energy from 100 to 0 in one go. Since I'm doing this as a first time walkthrough, I'll start with only my small fishing net and go through gathering all the other items during the encounter. Once the ship arrives and the minigame begins, Head over to the bins on the ship and gather 6 buckets, 1 rope, 1 hammer, and 1 harpoon. Fill the buckets with water using the water source on the ship. Then immediately go down to the land and start fishing. Fish until you have 18 uncooked harpoon fish. If you see a double fishing spot, make sure to go fish there as soon as possible. It's extremely helpful and will help you fill your inventory much faster. You're likely going to need a tether for the first wave attack while catching the 18 fish or very shortly after that. Once you have all 18 fish, cook them on the shrine near you. While doing this, you'll likely see the first lightning attack and possibly even the second wave attack. The lightning rarely, if ever, strikes near the shrine, but just be cautious. Once all the fish are cooked, you can head up to the ship and load them into the cannon. Along the way, you should put out all the fires in your area and on the ship so you don't have to worry about them spreading, and repair the totem pole near you or the mast up on the ship if it was damaged by the wave attacks. While loading the fish, expect to see another mechanic. It could be the wave attack, lightning attack, or even the torrent attack. Depending on which you see, tether to the mast, react to the lightning attack spots, or switch cannons if the torrent attack is targeting the one that you're at. As soon as the last fish leaves your inventory, you can begin running to the dock to harpoon the pool of fish. Ideally, you want to get there before the fishing pool spawns. Doing so will almost guarantee you get Tempoross at or sub 50%. While harpooning, no other mechanics will occur, so just harpoon until its energy gets back to 100%. Optionally, once you get good with the transition between the first and second phase, you can stop harpooning once Tempoross is sub 50% and go start catching the next set of 18 fish. Once you stop harpooning, make sure to refill your buckets using the water source right next to you so you have your buckets full. And don't just run by it like I just did. Then start catching 18 more harpoon fish. You're basically repeating phase 1 at this point, making sure to prioritize the double fishing spots, tethering during the wave attacks, moving out of the lightning attacks, putting out fires, repairing any damaged poles or masts. It should feel a lot like phase 1, only the mechanics can be in a different order. If you do happen to get damaged and lose items, immediately go recover any tools and then proceed to regather the fish that you need. You have a little bit of room for error here, so you should be okay. Doing this method is very safe and almost guarantees you will succeed and get a healthy amount of points for reward permits. If you were successful in defeating Tempoross, congratulations. It's an awesome minigame with amazing rewards and a nice break from the endless grind we all know. If you liked the video, feel free to leave a like. I'll be putting out more minigame guides like this one and other guides for other areas of OSRS, so if you like this format and want to learn other areas, subscribe so you get notified. And as always, feel free to comment areas where you think it needs better explanation. I'm always happy to hear from you on ways to make this easier. Until then, I'll see you guys on the next one.